All right, so every great story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'll let you guys decide which one this is, but you can see the tank just left. And we still have the stand in there. We have a bunch of other stuff. The sump is coming. And you'll probably see all the people moving the stuff, including Randy there with our water mist fire extinguisher. You may remember that one. But I'll let you decide where this is. But I want to share, now, like, what it was like to experience all of this, not just the factual elements of what happened, but how it feels to want to set up your forever tank, your dream tank, put all your heart and soul in it, and have it not necessarily go the way that you would have liked. And what do you do with that information? And how do you make it not happen to you? Because I think that there's actually a lot of lessons in here, that certainly for myself. Uh, but all this whole story really started with the Reef where I did a presentation on a 5-year tank. And at that moment in time, I realized, you know what? I've set up a lot of tanks for 2 years, 1 year, but it was never really any thought into how long it would last per se. It was set up a beautiful tank and then maintain it. But now that you have all these like beautiful tanks and they've been up, and you're like starting to think, what would it take to set it up for 5 or 10 years in a world where everything is going to break and everything that could possibly go wrong will go wrong inside of 5 or 10 years? How do we plan around that so we don't lose this beautiful investment and harm the animals involved? And so I think that was also the moment in time where I moved in this house. We saw this like opportunity where it's like, I can build this tank in my house. I'm building moving into what I think is my forever house. I'm moving into this house where I think that my family is going to be here for decades. And I also have this story of a forever tank all like really the last 20 years or 17 or so years of being a fish tank owner, as well as a owning a business for, I don't know, since I think it was 2005 or so, 2008, doing YouTube channel on this stuff for, I don't know, maybe probably 1,500 videos so far. All it felt like this is all leading to this one moment in time, like, or all of that experience, 20 years of doing this or 17 years of doing this, knowing all the people that are in the industry, getting all the advice from livestock people, the dry people, communicating that all of you, building this into this thing. It's going to be really cool. Again, all of it coming to this one moment in time. And I just felt like this was maybe one of the most exciting builds it will ever do. I think it still will be. Um, but it started to fall apart right away, because what I really wanted to do is I really thought that I had the time to share with all of you. I thought that, I'll bring it home, and at home I'll have more time to shoot little funny new videos and share with you all the little tips and tricks that I learned. I'll have more time there than I have at work to do this stuff. That turned out to be a total falsehood, and it's actually the opposite. But I thought that it'd be really fun to share this journey with everybody as well. And I do, man. I really thought it would be, and parts of it were. I, but almost immediately it started to unravel when we started to figure out the complexities of a big tank. For instance, we had to take this big door out to be able to even get the stand in. And this door had to come out in the winter. And then we found out carrying a tank up the hill in the winter just isn't realistic. You're going to carry a 1,000-pound tank up a hill with ice on it. It's just not reality. And so when we look back at it, it's like that stalled us out for almost a whole season. And at the end of that season, COVID. We're told that 1% of the population is going to die, man. Like, that's 3.5 million people in the United States. And now, like, is it reef tank, or am I thinking about my family, or am I thinking about, all kinds of stuff? Meanwhile, everybody's hoarding toilet paper and people are hoarding meat, all kinds of crazy stuff. Uh, and then I'm thinking about work as well, because there's people there that I need to protect it, and I have a responsibility to as well. And those people, now we made that decision immediately to, pay people like 40 hours, have them only work 20, and then give them a bonus on top of that. So there's half the time and half the exposure to this crazy disease that nobody really knows anything about. Yet you guys actually start ordering 50% more stuff than ever because we're all locked in our house. And what are you going to do except for your indoor hobbies? Uh, so half the people doing 50% more work, total chaos, trying to figure out how to do that safely and reliably. I thank you guys, by the way, for all of your patience during that period of time. It was rough for all of us. But at the same time, on top of that, my wife is pregnant that spring, finds out she's pregnant, and that we're going to have a baby in the fall or early winter. And like the thought of going to a hospital at that point in time, in the middle of we're all going to die message, is scary, man. My wife's terrified, and they're telling her she's gonna have to wear a mask on her face during her entire pregnancy. They're telling her that if she has COVID, they're gonna have like rip her baby away from her. Like it's just, ugh. Like it's just a total like chaos, undesirable event to be in. Tank is like a million miles away from the priority, but still, what you're seeing is bursts of energy. Just like, Randy and I are like, all right, this week, man, let's go in there and jam it through. And you're going to see us build out the walls of the fish room. You're going to see us get it full of water. You're going to see Jeremy and I plumb the tank. You see these bursts of energy where all of a sudden the tank is like a big jump of progress. And one of them is when it gets running. We get it full of water. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take my sweet time now. I'm going to let this thing cycle forever. I just don't want it to be a headache when I turn it on, turn the lights on. And so we let it cycle for what? I don't remember exactly the date, but I want to say more than 6 months, which is longer than like I've ever cycled a tank my whole life. Turn the lights on, goes total to shit. Like it's just, there's blooms, algae blooms, there's like green blooms, there's bacterial blooms, there's gunk all over the rocks. It's just like, what the hell just happened here? And it's not fun. And meanwhile, like, not only just not fun, but like the most public not fun of all time, because I'm sharing it with you guys. Got to share the good along with the bad. But like, this is not supposed to go this way. You would think that, like, I've done this enough times, and I've cycled this rock longer than I've cycled anything. I put more thought in this than I've ever put anything, and I haven't done anything uniquely bad here. What is it that is causing all of these problems, man? And, eventually we get to the other side of that. And, we start putting corals in, and, you're seeing it burst too. Like all of a sudden, bam, here's a ton of coral. And all of a sudden, the tank is where we want it to be. But I'm not actually sharing it with you guys because I don't really have the time again, man. Like, my best time was to take care of the tank was between 7 a.m. and like noon on Saturdays and Sundays, where I'm trying to take care of my tank. So take care of the kids in the tank. I got little kids tugging at my feet, asking, Daddy, why are you paying attention to me while I'm scrubbing algae off the glass? And the balance here just isn't right. And I will tell you, going back just a little bit, prior to putting the corals in, what I really had come to terms with is my work-tank balance, or life balance, work-life tank balance is out of balance. This thing should be a fish tank only. I should fill it up with a bunch of fish that I love, a bunch of angelfish or something cool. I share that with my family. It will match the time and effort that I have to put into this. It won't require anywhere near as much maintenance. And I had come to terms with that was the reality of it, but I hadn't come to the terms of disappointing all of you. I knew if I came out and said a message of, I give up, I'm going to make this a fish only tank, it just like wasn't something that I was going to say. And like I ignored it. I like decided we're going to power through. I'm going to make time out of nowhere because I refuse to tell that message that I give up. It's not going to be a reef tank anymore. And it's kind of sad because like what is disappointing about a fish only tank with other things that I love in it? And I think that message is actually unique to a lot of people because some people love SPS tanks, some people love LPS tanks, some people love fish tanks, and kind of everybody just kind of wants you to do the thing that they did, including myself. And so I don't know. That was a missed opportunity, and probably a lesson that I'll describe a little bit later. But I should have done what really matched what I had time for, and it would have been more successful. But in the end, we eventually get the tank cycled. We eventually beat back all of the problems. I eventually decide on the hybrid solution between a fish tank and a SPS tank was an LPS tank. We fill it up with Euphyllia. I find out that I thought I liked Euphyllia, and I do, but I really love Goniopora. That is actually something that excites my soul. I didn't realize how many of those variations of that coral there really were. And like in my mind, you'd only be able to find 6. And what I found is that I found like 40 and I hadn't even touched it. So someday I may have a Goniopora only tank. And the Alveopora actually as well. Very similar, but a little different. And uh, there's this point here though, like I've achieved the dream. I'm missing one piece though. I'm not able to share it with all of you because I don't have the time to do it. If I pull 3 hours away, it's 3 hours away of important time with my family. I don't see them enough as it is. And so the next piece of this thing is I'm walking through the house. I see it here, and a lot of times there's more algae on the glass than I would like to admit. And a lot of times the sand isn't as clean as I'd like to admit. And the result of that is part of me is I don't really want to share that. I don't want to like get out the camera and like share that piece because this thing is actually supposed to bring joy into your life. You're supposed to take like great pride in what you've achieved because most people will never even see these corals like in their life, like alive. They'll see them in a picture or in a video or something, and like we're maintaining these things in our homes. It's just like one of the coolest hobbies there is. It's supposed to bring joy and excitement and pride into what you've achieved. And when every time I walk by and see the glass is green, it actually brings the opposite. It brings what I would say is disappointment or maybe even shame, man. Like I'm not doing what I set out to achieve. And every time I see it, man, it's just like making me feel crummy. I'm not happy with that whole thing. So do I get to the other side of that? I guess I'll never know exactly because at some point my wife tells me she wants to move. That what we thought was our forever house actually has very few kids that live in the neighborhood, and the street we live on is totally unsafe to play in, and the parks are largely empty. So definitely I've learned I would not get in the way of my wife's happiness or my kids, but in this case I also agree with her. What we thought was the right move is the wrong move. And as hard as it is, I have to. I mean, the big thing here, I care less about the house really. It's the fact that I poured a couple of years of my heart and soul into this tank that took hundreds of hours to put up, and took 4 hours to disassemble. So, what are we gonna do now? So I'm going to move, and I'll tell you already that people have asked if we're going to set up a new tank, and we're going to build a new tank, and I've already instructed them to put in a footing that would allow for an 8-foot tank that is 3 feet wide by as tall as I want to make it. I don't really know we'll be there. I haven't put any desire to plan it all out yet, but that space is there and available to me with a foot thick concrete to make sure that it can support what I want there. But now, this is the question, is this the next leg of the journey? Is now we're going to bring this thing to my office. And I'm going to tell you right now that this giant tank in my office is going to look absurd. But, like, it's going to be exciting. This is a place now where I was wrong. I'm going to be able to enjoy it on a daily basis, spend 8 hours of my day every day with this tank. I'm actually, instead of taking 3 hours away from my family here, where there's a disappointment attached to that, if I spend 3 hours on the tank at BRS, somebody will come by and say high five, man, or give me a high five and tell me, man, you did good work today. And the reality is I get paid, man, to take care of tanks and learn something new and share it with people for a living. let's put more effort into that. And I'll probably be able to share the journey even more and better in that environment than I can here. So we're also going to put the sump out on the other side of the wall. So when you're walking through the hall, you can see all the fun gear. If you actually come to BRS and ask for a tour, a person up front will walk you through. You'll be able to see it all. And yes, you can actually come into my office and see the tank as well. And so, like there, I'll get to share it with you guys more in person in many cases, but through YouTube, Facebook or Instagram, videos or photos like this one. I'll get to actually work on it more. It'll be more successful. And I think one of the like big points here is like it wasn't that I didn't have time for a tank, because like that's the obvious question to me is like, well, what if I don't have time for a tank in the work life and tank balance? Well, the answer isn't that. Is I actually had figured out the answer. And the answer was a fish only tank would have fit my balance. And the reason for that is it just doesn't take as much effort. It doesn't take as much attention. The lights usually aren't as bright. They don't grow as much algae. It's just a lot easier environment. The organisms are a little less sensitive. They don't soak up as many, elements of chemistry. It's just like something that you can really enjoy without a lot of effort. The other thing is, you know what? Like I could have done something totally different and had, a little 60-gallon tank or a 20-gallon Nuvo in my kitchen and filled it with Goniopora, filled it with something cool like a cuttlefish. I could have like, found a different angle on something that could manage my time and still be something I loved. It didn't have to be huge. It could be huge and full of fish. It could be small and something cool. But like I've learned that I don't want to not have a tank at the house. I've learned that the 50 tanks at BRS isn't really enough. I want to share this stuff with my family, but I need to figure out how to do it in a way that matches that actual, balance in my life I have at the time. And so I think it's a message that I would give to anybody. If there's one thing to learn out of all of this, it's consider not just the end desire that you want, but consider like, how much time and effort do you have to put into it? And if it's infinite, like, my first tank I set up, I, had no kids and my fiance at the time worked nights. Like all my time was my time. I could do anything I wanted, I could spend 6 hours, chiseling out the perfect aquascape and nobody'd ever bother me. It was perfect. Like for this application, my type of tank. Now it's just a different thing. So I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think in terms of what you would expect to be achieved. And maybe I should get out of the way here a little bit because I can see the stand rolling around. But what I'm excited to do now is live up to the next leg of the journey. The next leg of the journey being, how do we make the 360 the tank that it was supposed to be? How do we share more of the journey with you in a more timely manner instead of in just little quick bursts? A more prolonged journey, more information, more lessons, more updates, and in the end show something really fantastic that every time that I see it, I say, man, my life is better because this is in it. I'm excited. It's a piece of what I find joy in this life. And I can't wait to share it with all of you.